Namaste, welcome.
Welcome to our weekly online global satsang. We come from all over the place. We come from different spiritual teachers, different teachings, belief systems, different spiritual practices. What brings us together in sharing these flowering heart satsangs is that we are experiencing awakening, transformation, and the flowering of our hearts with divine consciousness and unconditional love. As that begins to happen, we have more in common with each other than people who participate in our particular belief systems or spiritual practices. We're united by the fact of our awakening and transformation. So, welcome. As we come together in satsangs like this, local meditation groups, local satsangs, we begin to change the world. As we change individually and we come together, it ripples out and it's affecting the collective consciousness. We've got a long way to go, but we are well underway. So glad you're with us. We're going to be sharing throughout the webcast tonight what we call the Flowering Heart Blessing. It is a transmission of divine awareness, consciousness, awakened consciousness. And it's a gift directly from the divine source itself for anyone who wishes to receive it, to catalyze the process of awakening. If that process is already underway, receiving the Flowering Heart Blessing again and again will melt away blocks and open up the door, the flow of transformation in you. If you're already awakened, congratulations, it's not a destination. As I say frequently, it's an ongoing eternal journey of expansion. And the Flowering Heart Blessing will also help awakened beings to deepen their awakening and to expand. So please join us, because besides being free, directly from the divine, belonging to no organization, hierarchy, saint, or master, it also initiates you instantly. When you receive this energy and this presence, you're initiated, and all of you are receiving it right now and will continue to throughout the satsang tonight. So you can join us in sharing the Flowering Heart Blessing by intention with all of the other participants in the satsang. Tonight, or those who tune in the days and months and years ahead to this recording, they'll experience the very same presence, the very same energy and grace that we're participating in tonight. If you come from another teacher or group who has their own form of blessing or Diksha or Shaktipat or whatever it may be called in your particular group, if it's a transmission from the divine source to catalyze awakening and the flowering of the heart, please feel free to share your blessing with us as well this evening. Later on, we'll come to a time where we'll be taking strong intentions and sending intent blessings that are very focused on the particular issues and needs that you brought with you here tonight. And then after that, we'll conclude with the open eye light meditation. In the meantime, we open it to questions and answers about the spiritual journey, about your spiritual practice. It could be even a philosophical question about awakening or God realization or the journey. And when you do ask those questions, it moves the divine itself, the divine presence, to inspire us with answers, with light and clarity that we can share in those particular areas, and we're all blessed by that. I noticed as we were beginning tonight that there are all kinds of birthday greetings rolling in from you guys for Suzanne. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moray and Michael Christopher and Stacy and John have all wished you a happy birthday.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
We've had a good one.
Yeah. It's a very relaxing day. It was nice.
You want to share any words about how old you are now? No.
Am I old?
No.
None really come to mind. Just feel so grateful and so blessed for the opportunity to serve and the work that we can do. So Michael asked me the other day on the beach, he said, if you could do anything else, what would you want to do, with what's left of our lives? And I said, I really can't think of anything else that I'd rather be doing than what we're doing here. It's very fulfilling. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to be able to look at your life and realize, I wouldn't do it any other way. And we get to share it with each other and with you. I'd like to thank any of you that are with us tonight who might have sent a donation. You may not be on our email list, in which case you may not have seen it. You can scroll down on the Facebook page later on. You don't need to do that now. Or you can go to floweringheart.org, which is our website. And up there towards the top of the home page, it explains what we've asked yesterday for help with, and the responses were immediate and so
we got
so
enough
loving.
Yesterday to cover our Vimeo subscription for another year. So
That's
really
not
great.
what we asked for, so stop throwing that
That's
out
operation expenses.
there. I know, but I don't want to be talking bills.
That's okay.
Yeah, it
I was
costs us,
grateful.
yeah, it's $900 a year just to
Right.
put on these Monday night webcasts, which, as we pointed out in the email yesterday, almost everything we do is completely without charge. We do ask for donations for certain things that we do, like retreats and counseling and the Qigong classes, but all the satsangs and blessing circles that we do, and most of what we do online is absolutely a gift. And it's a gift to us to be able to do it. That said, occasionally we need additional help and support. And this is one of those times. And Suzanne has generalized that, operating expenses, that's all true. And upkeep for the center, that's all ongoing. And we have to find some way always to do that, and we do. But more recently, the center van is on its last legs. I wrote in the letter it has over 214,000 miles on it, and the transmission is slipping. And John said, we ought to get one of exactly what we have because they're good for up to 400,000 miles. Well, some of those vans might be, but this one, we've been riding it hard. And
It's been slipping for a couple years now.
yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing that it's lasted this long, and we've been trying to save up, but with the pandemic and everything, it got a little tricky, so we are asking for
the
help.
transmission lets us know constantly, and it has for 2 years. I've seen lots of transmissions go over the years. I've never seen one last this long after it began to go. So I know there's been a lot of grace. God has been
Holding on by a thread.
but we finally got the message
Right.
that we really need to take action swiftly, because it's waving goodbye. so anyway, anything anyone can do to help is just great. And
It'll be really nice not to get in the car and wonder if that's the last time.
Yep. Now that I think about it, the last vehicles that I had that actually died while I was using them was my old work van. Turned left on US 19 and the transmission just died. I lost my clutch, it was gone. And the other one was that sedan we had, and we were driving George from the airport back in the days when we were doing conferences here, and and so George Sands visited, and I picked him up at the airport, drove him from Tampa back home, pulled up in the driveway, and it stopped, and that was it. So we've learned to listen to the cues, and we're getting strong ones. Anyway, thank you for putting up with us. But yeah, and more birthday greetings.
Aw, thank you.
You'll want to read these
I
later.
will. I'll
when you
read
can
them at
get
the
up
end.
close. Aw, you guys are sweet. Aw. All right. So, is there anything else that we should be sharing?
Just ready for questions.
Yeah. Yeah, Pinar. Thank you. I remember. And yeah, this is kind of a sanctuary, this place. It really is. And
had a lot of processes over the years, and
Had
thousands
thousands of
and thousands
people.
of people come through here. Managed to,
so we
Keep it going.
We do live in one corner of this big space,
Right.
but we got it really just for processes. And we've had so many spiritual teachers come stay with us and share, and it's been a real blessing. And we realized, because we were pushing, we really wanted, at a certain point we thought we wanted a brick and mortar building in a public place with signs and all of that, like many temples and spiritual centers and churches, and because we're kind of hidden away in this big house in a residential neighborhood, although everybody pretty much, I think, knows what goes on here. And we were trying to move in that direction a couple of years before the pandemic, but for some reason, and we found a place and all of that, but the message we got from Spirit was not to invest ourselves in brick and mortar, but in networking and connection using the internet and
increasing our online presence and our equipment.
And then when last year hit and everything shut down, we realized that it would have probably put us under.
It was all in divine order.
And in spite of the fact that everything seemed out of divine order.
Right.
It was.
We were really
grateful
graced. During this period, it's amazing. It's like, every time we had a big decision to make about moving forward in life, we were just confused, and so we would stop and we would pray and we'd get clear guidance from Spirit instead of our heads. Like we had our old houses that we had before we got together, and anyway, everything just completely lined up when we made the decisions from our heart, and it didn't seem logical or rational or anything. We just were like, okay, this is what we're hearing, this is what we're going to do. And when we look back over the last couple of years, it's pretty amazing that those decisions were just exactly what we needed. And to deepen in that trust and that faith in our lives more and more as we're growing, we start to see that we don't always know what's coming for us, but the divine does.
I don't like the way you put that. What's coming for us? Yeah, but so true. So, any questions or comments? We'll wait just a few minutes because I know it's actually a buffer. So when I say something, it doesn't reach you for like 20 seconds after I actually say it. And I need to remember that, because 20 seconds is a long time when we're live streaming. You know? Sometimes it can be forever. Okay. If the motor's still strong and most things still work, a new or repaired transmission may be the way to go. No, it isn't.
No,
the van is so beat up, and there are other problems in the engine. But transmissions are a very expensive deal nowadays, and neither Susanna nor I can put in a new transmission. But we priced it; it's not worth it. And actually, in Florida with the heat and stuff, there are all these plastic parts, all these clips and things in the engine. Our son is a mechanic, but he's not working on cars anymore. He's not doing a transmission. But they're beginning to fall apart. I could go into it.
There's lots of more problems than the transmission.
but yeah, it really, sometimes you just have to say bye-bye.
Yeah,
and,
as much as we love it.
If it was like in the old days, I mean, when I used to live in Mexico, I marveled at how the people were keeping cars in perfect running condition. And this was in the in the 70s, 1970s, that were from the 50s, you know, and these old cars. And
They have a lot less parts.
yeah, but they were made differently too, you know, and it didn't have all these plastic pieces that were designed to disintegrate over
Right,
time.
in the heat.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks
Yeah.
for the suggestion. Appreciate suggestions.
Our son told us 3 years ago that we needed to start looking for a new car the last time he worked on it. He was changing something out, and yeah, he's like, I had to kind of work magic to get the clips to go back together and to stay, and yeah, oil leak, gaskets are going, it's, yeah.
Yeah, so the motor is not strong.
Right.
Anyway, but
Thank you for the
for
suggestion.
for the thought, yeah. Okay. Kenneth asks, could you define higher consciousness as God? Yeah, I suppose you could, if you go high enough. I mean, God is, in India, the description for God is the all that is. I mean, everything is God. Tattvamasi, sort of like one of the great mantras of India is, thou art that. You see the tree? Thou art that. The mountain? Thou art that. The universe? Thou art that. I mean, the divine is more than that. The divine is in, through, and beyond all that exists. But yes, I mean, we could speak of God as well, in India, Sat Chit Ananda is often the description of what could be experienced of the divine by a mystic. I mean, actually, the divine is formless and infinite and is beyond comprehension, definition, any name you could put on it. But great mystics throughout the ages that have dissolved in the divine presence and then come forth to speak to us about it have said it is Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means existence or being. Well, it's usually translated existence, consciousness, bliss. Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness, usually translated, and Ananda is usually translated bliss. I think most of us don't have a real good existential grasp, a feeling grasp of existence. What does that feel like? And consciousness, huh? Bliss, well, we got some idea about what we think bliss is, but it isn't that, what we thought. Bliss is not a peak emotional state. Bliss is like inner peace, total peace with what is. But recently I've been meditating on that, and I think an easier translation of it would be being, awareness, and unconditional love. When you dissolve in the divine presence, it is pure being and pure awareness and pure unconditional love. Another translation that we got from some Jain teachers, very wonderful spiritual teachers, was awareness of existence is bliss. The pure awareness of existence. But you see, the divine is more than just awareness. The divine is also love and bliss, and the divine is pure being, pure existence. So to just say God is, or the divine is higher awareness, well, yes, but more. It is the highest, it is all awareness, which gets refracted through all these prisms, and we all get to share. We're all sharing in this supreme intelligence, this supreme being. And again, back to where we started, no description, no title, no name can do it justice. In fact, in some regards, any time we start to talk about it and try to describe it, this God thing, this divine thing, in a way we're doing it a disservice, which is why Lao Tzu, the author of the Tao Te Ching, said, the one who knows, who really knows the Tao and experiences ultimate reality, does not speak. And the one who speaks does not know. But it's simpler than that, because Lao Tzu himself spoke and he wrote that down, and and the teaching goes on. Anyway, so yeah. So the answer to your question is yes and no. Yes and more. More says, Michael, you've lived in so many places. Can you tell us about it? Well, yeah, if we had a campfire and all night, we could. The stories go on. Suzanne has traveled many and been many places as well. But I've lived various places in the United States, but I was living in California, so many years ago. And I had just recently had my first, what I would call an enlightenment experience. And time stopped, and I could see the past, the present, and the future simultaneously. I saw the light. I saw hundreds of years of other lifetimes. I mean, centuries of lifetimes, and experienced living them. All this happened in a fraction of a second. but once you experience the light of eternity, must have more. So I was fortunate in that I crossed paths with a Chinese monk who, his story is proverbial. He was taken in off the street. He was an orphan. And an old monk from this legendary Taoist monastery on top of Lufushan, which is one of the sacred mountains, Taoist mountains in China. This guy was an abbot. He was a great master. And he saw my teacher, and he saw something in him. He said, come on, come live with me. And he took him up the mountain, and for the next 13 years, he just poured into him everything. So I was looking for a teacher. I was so lucky, so fortunate to run into a being like that was willing to teach me. I was one of a small group of students that were some of the first Caucasian, non-Chinese people that were allowed to learn Nui Gong, or internal alchemy, and it changed my life. Seeing energy and feeling this ocean of oneness that it's a sensory experience with Taoist Qigong and Neigong or Nui Gong. You literally feel that you're like part of this ocean of energy flowing through you and everything else. And I learned about meditation, deep meditation and healing. But when you start to learn things, you really want to share them. So I had begun teaching in the colleges out there and teaching classes and helping at the Taoist temple teaching there. But I had an invitation to go share Taoist meditation and Taoist energy arts with a group in Mexico. And I had never been out of this crazy American culture. And it was the first time I know we have poverty here, but I never saw it like I saw it in Mexico. And I saw how people were so humbly grateful for what they had. I mean, I met all these people living in these little shacks that are made of mud brick, adobe brick, with dirt floors and thatched roofs, no electricity. I mean, they didn't have 2 cents to rub together, and they were happier and more at peace and more grateful than people back home who had 2 cars and a 2-car garage and a nice house, and were just worrying about their next raise and getting a nicer car and moving moving up the ladder. And I realized then how sick people, at least and I don't want to just target the United States, but I would say in civilized, developed countries, but definitely in the United States, I saw the people around me consumed with materialism. And they'd lost touch with the earth, which when you live with a dirt floor, you're much more in touch with the earth. And had lost touch with their hearts, and there was all this anxiety over materialism and power and control and seeking pleasure and all of that. And I fell in love with what we called then the third world. I realize that is a politically incorrect statement now, but I felt at that time, after that trip, that initial trip was like 6 weeks, that I needed to go back every so often, because I came back to the United States and I went through culture shock, not going to Mexico, but coming back to the United States. And re-entry here just put me through shock when I saw how mentally ill people were. And so I began to go back regularly, and very soon thereafter moved to Guadalajara, where I started a Taoist school and was teaching the internal healing arts and meditation and Qigong and some Kung Fu and Tai Chi Chuan and all of that. And absolutely just fell in love with Hispanic culture, because that's where my heart opened to a different relationship with humanity and with the earth. And I said then, and this was decades ago, like 50 years ago, that all American youth it must be required that they spend 2 months in some underdeveloped country somewhere, working with the poor and living with the poor, because they'll never be the same. And we've seen countless young people go through those experiences. It happens a lot of times when kids are involved in youth groups in their church, and it's a church with a missionary vision. They'll get an opportunity, usually in high school age, to go to a mission, like to dig wells in South America or in Africa. And that kind of experience, you're never the same again. So I to keep my sanity at that time in life, I needed to go out of the developed first world country I was living in into more humble places around the world, and that became sort of a way of life, of coming back and forth. That led to me also living for a time in La Paz, Bolivia. And there's no time to tell the stories about Bolivia, but the greatest miracles that I've seen and happened during the time that I was living on the Altiplano in Bolivia. And I'm so in love with the Andes, you know. I know a lot of people have a romantic thing about the Himalayas, and I get that. But sometimes we in the Western world don't realize how powerful. And the Andes are as high as the Himalayas virtually, and so mystical. So the people that live there, so amazing. You know, the Quechua, the Aymara, the Incas before. Yes, much love. Yeah, I could just go on all night talking about these places, but let's see. Okay. Well, that's great, John. I'm glad your brother had that experience. Let's focus back on the spiritual satsang. I know, some of them go 300,000, 400. This one didn't make it. I can tell you it didn't make it. Had multiple mechanics look at it, and it's time to move on. Okay. And, Jim Waters, oh my, the young monk could see the clouds move quietly, as if on their own. He asked, yes, but how is this special? And teaching him, they said, stop and listen. Observe how the clouds move on their own. Watch. Hold out your hand and feel the winds brush across your hand and face. how your hairs move on its own too, how your hair moves on its own too. Can you explain how your hair moves as if with the clouds?
That's really beautiful. It actually reminds me of something I shared with our Wednesday Satsang last week. We went for a walk at a local park, and it was just a really lovely evening, and we'd never walked that late before, and the lights were on the fountain, and everything was just a little bit quieter as it got darker. And as we were walking over a boardwalk, it's on a lake, and the lake has this giant fountain in the middle, and it was all lit up. And with the absence of more visual stimuli, I was staring at the fountain when we were walking across, and I noticed the ripples that it was making on the water, these beautiful little delicate ripples from the fountain. And then 2 ducks swam by, and the ripples turned into like a crisscross pattern. And then as we got around the park, there were these palm trees that they just put in, big sable palms. They're pretty wide. And I was still staring at the fountain, and I noticed that when we'd walk by the tree, when I was in front of the tree, you could not hear the fountain at all. It was like you'd walked into a cone of silence. I mean, you would think that you would still hear a little bit of residual, but it was like a cone of silence. And then kept walking, fountain back on, and then the next tree. And it was very surreal. And it made me contemplate how we're always in our minds so much and caught up and thinking about what we need to do tomorrow and what we just did and how we're going to do something else, and always doing. And as we deepen in just being, we realize how much that we're missing of sensual experiences and the way that things are coming together and moving and forming and how it's all connected. And it was a beautiful meditation. So thank you, Jim, for bringing that up, because that was a very, very beautiful experience I had last Tuesday.
I missed where that came from when I read. It sounded Tibetan, and Jim wrote something that I missed. Must be nice out there in Florida. Love this story you're telling. A close friend and teacher of mine used an old teaching on a monk in Tibet. Told how he came to believe in mind moves. He told me that the monk explained the monastics sought to know how the monks knew the clouds moved. And, oh my, the young monk could see the clouds move quietly, as if on their own. He asked, yes, but how is this special in teaching him? They said, stop and listen. Observe how the clouds move on their own. Watch, hold out your hand, and feel the winds brush across your hands and face. How your hair moves on its own too. Can you explain how your hair moves as if with the clouds? The older monk remarked, saying, "O young monk, observe what you see, for mind moves. Observe the clouds move with the wind, so it is our souls move with eternity."
Beautiful.
Then David Barnhart responds, if we come here with this soul contract to learn more experiences and to forget our prior simultaneous other soul experiences, why can't we, when we've become more enlightened, ask for and receive these soul experiences we've had, even if briefly? It just seems with so much hidden from us while we're on Terra, we could at least tap into, as some say they have, the knowing we are eternal soul repeating. Okay. The question is why can't we? Well, the answer is you can. I mean, there are those that are teaching how to access the Akashic records and touch into previous lives. I've never attempted it. Because I watched so many of my friends on the spiritual path over the years get big heads when they remembered that they were like a disciple of Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago, or they had been some enlightened teacher in India, or they had been some great being, or other things. But I have other friends like Suzanne, who has remembered some of her previous lives and being an old Native American woman, a potter, and an artist, and that's been an important piece for her. Thing is, for some of us, it's important to remember previous soul journeys and lifetimes. It does help some of us. It depends on our calling, our purpose in this life. Most of us need to forget all of that and be here now. As Ram Dass said, remember, be here now. And so we're given, there's a reason why the divine gives us tabula rasa, a blank palette, when we come into a new incarnation. We bring with us all the real goodies are buried deep in the soul, deep in our spiritual hearts is everything we need to carry over from previous lives. We carry over the good, and that's wonderful. But we get to begin anew without being burdened by identities and knowledge and all this other stuff. But if that's important to your calling, it will be given to you in the proper time. Evidently, it was important that I had that experience where time stopped and I experienced hundreds and hundreds of years of other lifetimes in the fraction of a second. But I've never sought to repeat that or dive into those things.
And I've only had 3 past life experiences, and when I was younger and beginning my spiritual journey, I really wanted to know the Akashic records and do all of that stuff. And something in me has gotten really relaxed over the years, because the 3 past life recalls that I've had, 1, they were very, very vivid. 2, they served a purpose. There was one memory that I had that was not such a great past life, and once that came to the light of awareness, it shifted patterns in my life that had been up until that point continuing. So I feel like when I need to know something and I trust that the divine is going to show it to me and point it out at the right time. But I'm not real concerned about all the other lives that I haven't remembered, unless I need to remove a block or a program that's so deep that it wasn't something that I could work on through this life. But that can also be done by grace too.
So John says, how can one know if it's a previous life or something shown to you by another source? You can't, actually. Or you can claim that you're absolutely certain.
Mine was very, very clear.
Let me just respond to John.
Okay.
Yeah, you see, she's certain. So we look to validate experiences various ways. Some of us look to enlightened authority figures outside of ourselves and books and teachings to validate our inner world. Other people look within and they decide what's true based upon their own inner sense of truth. I think we need to have both. We need to be open for our sense of inner truth to be challenged by enlightened voices and viewpoints outside of us. Yes, and we need to listen to those things that shine, for those reflected wisdoms and teachings that come from the outside, but ultimately we need to question that and look within. Decide for ourselves. But you can't really know. I mean, Chuang Tzu, another great Taoist master, said, last night I dreamt that I was a butterfly, and it was totally fulfilling. It was totally real. And then I awoke as a human. How can I be certain that I'm not actually that butterfly dreaming that I'm a man? Or am I a man who dreamt I was a butterfly? And that's the contradiction. You kind of can't know. And you can get caught up in those kinds of questions. We call them fundamental questions, because they really don't help us to become liberated or enlightened particularly. On a certain level, for instance, there's a great school of spirituality, Advaita, non-dualism, which says ultimately the separate self does not exist. It's a dream, it's an illusion. And when we awaken from that dream, from that illusion, then we experience oneness with all being. That one being has been every life that has ever existed. It has expressed itself as John, as Suzanne, as me, as Jim. This one being is expressing itself and giving existence to all of these forms, like you and me. So once you access that depth, you are exposed to countless souls and lives. And how do you know whether you're any of those or all of those? Or none of those, because there is no you, actually. That's the way non-dualism looks at these things.
The reason why I'm so certain is because when I had these 3 past life recalls, and they came at very different stages of my life, is that the quality of it was that my eyes were open while I was having the experience. Like the Native American potter, I was doing pottery for the first time, and I was outdoors looking at the ocean, and as I was doing the pottery, through my eyes open, I saw a desert, and I saw my hands, and they were all leathery and old grayish black hair, and my granddaughter was loading the adobe kiln in the desert, and I was in a completely different location, but I was seeing it as if I was seeing it right there, and it was happening right then. And I remember thinking, I can't wait to be a grandmother in this life. And it was an unusual thing for an 18-year-old to be thinking or seeing or feeling or any of that. But all of my past life recalls were an experience with my eyes open, and I was in a completely different location, different time period, all of that. So that's how I can be certain. It wasn't like it came to me in a dream, or I wasn't meditating or doing a guided meditation from a cassette or CD or anything.
I could experience in a very high state being anyone. Mm-hmm. That's what happened to me when I saw all those lifetimes. I experienced being Jesus Christ and Adolf Hitler and Charles Manson and Saint Francis and people that are unknown. I experienced that there's a part of me that is all, every being. So in a sense, we can draw on the experience of the collective. You can draw on the collective experience of the sisterhood, of the great grandmotherhood. Anyway, so there are different ways of looking at all that, and I just want to, Abbot Jim Waters has been making a number of comments tonight. He's a dear friend, and I've known Jim for quite a few years, and actually, besides being a consecrated Franciscan abbot, he was really a war hero. And I mean, 3 Purple Hearts, I think, unless I lost count of one, and a photojournalist, award-winning. I mean, he's worked with amazing people and had such an amazing life. And you're one of those really incredible people that's touched my life, Jim. So just wanted to thank you for being, and so glad you've come through these recent challenges. Yeah, I'm well aware.
Okay.
And that's a game. Okay. So let's all close our eyes and dive into the spiritual heart. deep within you, in your heart of hearts, the sacred space of your spiritual heart, the center of your soul, dwells the divine presence itself in all of its fullness, awaiting our discovery. And it yearns to reveal itself to us. All we need to do is invoke the presence. Behold, the Master said, I stand at the door and I knock. If you'll open the door, I will come into you and feast with you and you with me. The thing is, in this case, the divine presence is already there. Within us, always has been. The door that we open allows it to flood our lives from the inside out. Call upon, invite the divine within you to fill you with the presence, to awaken you to the reality of your divinity and your enlightened true nature. If you brought with you a burden tonight for yourself or another or others, simply ask the divine to help with that, and then receive. For this divine presence loves you unconditionally. There is no distance between you and this divine source. Ask, and you will receive. Drink it in. Soak it up as it flows and radiates from the depths of your being through every layer of your humanity, illuminating, healing, transforming every layer, spirit, soul, body, relationships, rippling out from the center of your being into eternity. Now with your eyes still closed, visualize or imagine us sitting in a circle together. And you could lift up your hands with your palms open, facing forward. Invite the divine presence to pour through you the flowering heart blessing to all the other participants in the satsang, as each and every one of them is inviting the divine to pour through them the flowering heart blessing to you as well. If you're burdened by a problem you're still carrying and haven't quite let go of yet tonight, put it in the middle of the circle and let go as we all direct the grace of the blessing to your need, your situation. And now when you're ready, you could open your eyes, relax your hands, and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me. Just keep looking and making contact with at least one of our eyes. There's nothing else to do. As we begin the light meditation, the divine presence floods Suzanne and me and begins to pour oceans of grace and unconditional love and light through every pore of our being to you, especially through our eyes, for they are the doorways of the soul. So as you just keep looking, that light streams in through your eyes into your heart of hearts, to cause the flames of divine love and transformation to burn brighter and brighter within you, melting away blocks, dissolving veils, and opening the door. could close your eyes now and meditate for a few more minutes as the grace we've received settles within us. And feel free to keep meditating as long as you like, or lie down nearby in Shavasana. That's a yoga pose where you lie on your back with your eyes closed, your arms loosely at your sides with your palms open, turned upward, and just let yourself dissolve in gratitude with the presence. We love you guys so much.
Much love, light, and blessings until we connect again.
Until next time, the divine presence within us sees the divine presence in you, and we bow to you. Namaste.